Rob Sternstein, the first one on today. Good afternoon, all from a sunny and warmish Boston. Ed Worley is saying cheers. We're coming to you again from the Beach Street Yacht Club, Studio B, as usual. Julia is here. Ted Ryman saying hi from Cape Town. Hello, Ted. Getting to be winterish down there. Well, it's not cold exactly, but it's southern hemisphere. Gordon Smith in Denmark. John Lamberts van Buren, with whom I've been speaking, saying good evening from Holland, from the Netherlands. Let's get this one off the dock.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Studio B here, Beach Street Yacht Club, show number 511. Tom Ehman live with Julia, John, and the FOSI. Our twice-weekly show with yacht club, yacht racing, sailing, news, views, and notables. And Julia, you said we were pushing off the dock. Is that what you want to say now?
Right.
That's better than saying, let's get this one on the road, which we used to say. Bit of an auspicious day today because we are, for the first time, live. We hope you can see it, Matthias Collins and Fritz Mueller and Greg Phillips. We're in 1080p, 30 frames a second.
I can say you have to explain what 1080p is.
We're going to. You think we'd do a show without explaining what 1080p is?
Not on purpose.
Everybody knows what that is. Julia, my co-host, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, is here as always. I'm your host, Tom Ehman. Welcome to the show. Let's get it on the road as we get into the pre-start. Rob Sternstein is how he pronounces it, really, but I like Sternstein, the German pronunciation. The pre-start here. Want to thank Magnus the Magnificent, Magnus Wheatley, who was our guest on Friday. Always a terrific guest. Always great to have Magnus and his unique, Julia, perspective.
Yes.
Notwithstanding that you have a crush on him.
Never mind.
And Andrew Pindar, and Andrew McIrvin, and John Emmett.
Uh-oh.
Just admit it.
I have to start on a new nationality.
And all the Kiwis and all the Aussies, too.
Yeah.
Peter Stevenson.
Yes.
Yes, you and my mother both. Thanks, Magnus. It was terrific. Congratulations to the Kansas University Jayhawks. If you're here in this country, you will not have escaped last night's, at least the news of the game, if you didn't watch it. We have some friends, Julie, over at the Yacht Club, who one in particular, Biz Obley, who went to KU, Kansas University, right, is a Jayhawk, and even at age 80, whatever he is, loves to watch that basketball team. And they came from behind in what was a spectacular comeback.
Which they said was the furthest in history.
I think it was the biggest comeback in history of the NCAA, what they call here in the States, March Madness. It's arguably the best sporting tournament in this country because it brings everybody together from all corners of the country, all these college teams, 68 of which start out, and they go through a single game, single knockout.
156.
No, well, you're counting women. Okay, I know. I always forget the women. But in the men's, at least, it's 68. And equally, same number for women.
Right.
But terrific event, terrific. Congratulations to the Jayhawks. Now, if you're wondering what a Jayhawk is, that this requires some amount of explanation. The Jayhawks were also called Redlegs, and it's back in the America's Cup, started the AC era, 1850s. They're terms that came to prominence in Kansas, the state of Kansas, which, by the way, is in the geographic center of the United States, the lower 48.
Central America.
Well, Jim, our friend who says he's from Central America, he's really from Nebraska.
Right
Next door to Kansas. They became known as the Jayhawkers during the bleeding canvas period of the 1850s. Kansas, did I say canvas?
Yes.
They were adopted by militant bands affiliated with the Free State cause during the American Civil War over slavery. These gangs were guerrillas who often clashed with pro-slavery groups from Missouri next door, Missouri, but they all say Missouri, known at the time in Kansas Territory as border ruffians or bushwhackers. That's where the bushwhacker term came from. I didn't know that. After the Civil War, the word Jayhawker became synonymous with the people of Kansas or Kansas. Why can't I say Kansas? Or anybody born in Kansas. Today, a modified version of the term Jayhawk is used as a nickname for a native-born Kansan, but more typically for a student, fan, or alumnus of the university thereof. And Bravo Zulu to them. So that's how Jayhawk. Now, those of you who know something about the America's Cup will know that there was actually a boat in the Defender trials. Did you know this, Julia?
I need to be reminded.
Okay, that's why we have this segment here. That is Jayhawk, one of Bill Koch's 4 boats built for the 1992 Cup down in San Diego. Didn't use the boat in the finals. They used a boat, what was also called America Cube. The team was called America Cube. But he built 4, one of which was Jayhawk, and it's on display, at least last I knew, it was on display at the Wichita boat shed, boat dock on a river in Wichita, Kansas, from whence Bill is from. Bill Koch, the winner of the 92 Cup, and he then had a book written about him titled How a Hick from Kansas Won the America's Cup. And of course,
I never read that book.
I know. Well, it's a good book, actually. And it was an article, too, that maybe not quite a book, but a number of articles. How a Hick from Kansas won the America's Cup. And one of his boats, remember, they built 4 in 92. The Italians built 5. And that's when we put the rule in, which arguably made the Cup more expensive. We put in a limit to only 2 boats per team going forward after 92. And you put in a rule and there's unintended consequences. Now, instead of building full-scale mock-ups and boats that have an afterlife, they go into the computer and the towing tank and now all the AI stuff that goes on. Long story short, Jayhawk was also a boat in the 92 Cup. Now, we have just moved today. You're watching this, and I'm looking at we tested extensively over the weekend. And thanks to all of you who helped. I tested live to all of our 4 platforms on Saturday and on Sunday, and again yesterday. And many of you tuned in. And I'm just looking at the stream stats because, you never know, even though you extensively test, when you move from the computer having to deal with 4 cameras only at 720p, which is the number of pixels in the 16:9 screen that you're looking at, versus 1080, which is full HD, which is what you normally these days watch broadcast television on, 1080p. Here's an example, Julie, you were asking, of the difference in the size of the pictures. 576 is what you would normally see on your phones, but if you're watching on a full, like a television, a 60-inch TV in your home, it takes that smaller resolution image and blows it up and it gets grainy. Hence HD TV 720p, which you still see a lot of broadcast television in 720, but full HD is 1080, and it's the same picture. It fills the screen without having to be blown up, in a nutshell, is I guess is the best way to explain that. So if you're watching now as a couple even South America were watching on their big screen TV over the weekend, Matthias Collins, I think it was,
Right.
when we were in Carlos Aviz maybe too. So I hope you're seeing it loud and clear and the audio is fine. Gordon Smith, you were a big help. Thanks for helping. It was fun taking part, he said. John Emmett, beautiful 1080p. Jay Rendell said, I saw it in Kansas. KS is the state abbreviation here in the U.S. for Kansas. I opened the curtains in the hotel room, and there it was. Must have been in Wichita, Jay. One day you were a Jayhawk, referring to Jimmy Spithill's famous saying about one day you were the rooster and the next day you're the feather duster.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Also, this came from our FOSI Greg Phillips down in Oz, who took that picture, sent it back, see how good it looks. Well, it does. What Julie and I are worried about is that if you, now in 1080p, you can see if we've had a good shave.
Oh, yes.
Or a good makeup
and
job.
All the wrinkles show.
You know,
Every single one of them.
Onward, progress. Thanks also to Meg, who tuned up that slide we were just looking at, and that's
Yes.
now our new, much cleaner, simpler cover slide. And we've of course, gone to Tom Ehman Live because it's easy. We don't have to explain TFE Live with Tom Ehman and all this other. It's just simple, straightforward.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little, Julia, it seemed a little over the top to call it like everyone else does, the Tom Ehman Show or the Julia Vedekant Show.
No.
Everybody's got a podcast
Yeah.
called the XYZ Show, and we're live. And that's the thing that separates us, is that we are live.
Yes.
Twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays at 2000 UTC. Now, several of you wrote in, and thank you very much for doing so, and said, hey, what was this about violating community standards? And FOSI Chris Bulger up in Boston said, hello, Tom, I got a message from Facebook, and a number of others of you did as well get similar messages from Facebook last week. I got a message that from Facebook, the three of my comments violated quote unquote community standards. Was that intentional? And he then enumerated the three comments that he thought that Facebook was questioning. I recognize that the second two comments aren't in agreement with your, meaning my, Tom Ehman, opinions. Love to understand if this was a technical glitch or an editorial decision. And it for sure was not an editorial decision, and we had no idea this was happening. And as I said, it happened to a number of you. We have our own community standards, which has nothing to do with speaking your own mind and agreeing with Julia or disagreeing with Julia or myself or anybody else. In fact, we get a little worried
Yes.
when we don't get negative comments,
Right.
because, we want people to come on here and express your views. We're big, strong supporters in freedom of speech, and delighted to see Elon Musk going on the Twitter board, taking a big chunk of that company.
Yes, it would be terrific if he really had an influence on.
Well,
that.
he will. He's on the board now, and he's
I
already
know.
talking about adding a delete button. And, we are streaming now, not only to Facebook and YouTube, but also to my Twitter account, @TFE. We've been doing our 4 platforms. I don't know if they take it at 1080p, but by the way, if you're watching this on Facebook, you'll see it in 1080p, I think, the live stream. At least that's what I saw testing over the weekend again. But if you go back and look at it in replay on Facebook, unless you're a AAA gamer, a high-end gamer, you'll see the replay in 720p.
Mhm.
But on YouTube, it's in 1080p, regardless whether you're in replay or watching it on demand or not. But back to Chris Bulger and this kind. We for sure had nothing to do with this. In fact, I want to thank Chris for pointing this out. And again, we would never, ever, short of our own community standards, which you all know is no name calling, no coarse language, no cretinism. But Chris, this happened to a lot of other people. I went online. Facebook now over the weekend has admitted a glitch and says it's now fixed. And they were deactivating various folks' Facebook accounts. They rolled out a fix and apologized for a glitch after user accounts were deactivated without reason over the past several days. And this was happening Friday and then over the weekend. In most of the cases, users like Chris Bulger received a generic message while trying to log into their account saying they could no longer use their accounts as they, quote, didn't follow our community standards, unquote. The message further claimed that the decision to terminate the account was final and cannot be reversed. So I don't think that happened. Julie, I don't think that happened to everybody, but it did happen to a number that got the message.
Yeah.
And we had nothing to do with it. We're embarrassed, and we would never, ever, again, for sake of your opinions differing from ours or anyone else's, as long as you don't violate our prime directives, again, which is no coarse language, no name calling, just don't be a crouton, be a lady or a gentleman here on our channel. So thanks, Chris, for that. This is the only place that I share comments. Glad I didn't go 1 for 1, he's saying. All looking good. Julia's radiant and looking a gorgeous red or pink. Well, camera 2, it's a little pinkish. Here it's a little redder, and that's because they are different cameras, and we're going to have all 3 cameras the same in due course. Thank you, Peter. Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson. I have account restricted since September, still there. Well, that's because you're posting those girly pictures, Ted Ryan. He posts some great stuff. Gordon Smith, it happened to him too, but I understand it is it's a wider FB issue, was on the BBC News website as an issue, or even people who haven't written any comments. looking real good now. Thanks, Fritz Muller. Yes, Facebook is now live. Yeah, it is 1080p when live. And John Emmett always encourages everybody to watch the show on Facebook and comment on Facebook because it combines all the comments nicely. Restream.io, which we use, doesn't necessarily play well with Facebook comments. They don't forward them to YouTube and vice versa always. Rob says, my portfolio. Yeah, right. My portfolio. You must own some Twitter stock because you saw that, Julia, right?
Yeah.
That Twitter stock went up. Like Elon bought that stuff. He bought what? He bought almost.
Yeah, it went up quite a bit. I mean,
and it went up $600 million or $700 million
that's right.
between the time he bought it and I think when the market closed yesterday. I don't know what it's doing today, but okay, enough of all that in the pre-show. Let's get into the show and the starting line. Again, we love this photo from the St. Francis Yacht Club of wing sailing. I had a very interesting conversation during this testing phase and over the weekend. Gordon Smith said, and Peter Stevenson said the same thing. Maybe we should just get on and have a coffee, have a chat fest, and have everybody, but a Q&A, what anybody wants to bring up, and not on one of our regular 2 shows, but some other time. Maybe we'll do that.
It'd be fun to do that.
But apropos this shot, you heard Magnus say on the show on Friday, and we've talked about it since, he thinks that the kiting is going to go away after 2024, and it'll change to these wing foils. In fact, a working party, one hears, a working party of the events committee at World Sailing is recommending already changing the kiting, the current kite event in the Olympics, to wing foils for 2028. Not for 2024, but for 2028. And we'll see how that all goes.
Yeah, by then it'll be changed again.
Well, I doubt it. I do think the IQ foil, which we're going to talk about here at some length in today's show, that's the new foiling windsurfer, has taken hold and was a great change and a great move.
Yeah.
We'll talk some. We've been talking about that here on the show. Emmett has John submitted a really nice report from Palma. They're in a pub, the Flip Flop pub, in fact, with our FOSI. As John said, he'd try to track John Collingridge down, and he did, and here's their report from Palma with a special guest.
Yay.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. This is obviously unedited video here in Palma, just a couple of hours before the show goes live, and it's great to have Neil out here. We're enjoying Flip Flop, as I think one of the FOSI requested, and we had a pretty hard day on the water. So I wear a Garmin watch, and apparently I was extremely stressed for around 2 hours today, and I was just driving the rib. So the girls who did 3 races are, I think, in the nicest possible way, broken. So they decided not to join us. So Neil's daughter Daisy had a really good day today, and you're here in support.
Yeah, I've just come out for 3 days. I came to Palma 3 years ago before COVID. I think it's a cracking regatta, and I just really wanted to see what's going on. And I think they've had a smashing day today. It's been really windy. It was windy yesterday as well. And it's a fantastic venue.
And it's only going to get more difficult now. So we've had 4 races. So tomorrow onwards goes into finals. So that's gold and silver fleet. And in many ways, that's how or when the regatta really starts. I don't know how obvious it is from our background. We're sort of sitting outdoors. We've got a space heater about 2-3 meters away from us, and the boat park.
Yes.
I don't know how well you can see, but the boat park is just there.
Yes.
Just there. It couldn't be easier. In fact, we've got another legendary coach walking past in the background. It's Rafa for people who don't know. So, yes, wishing you a wonderful show. And any final thoughts? It's nice to be here. That's my overwhelming feeling.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. It's great to see all the young sailors out there have a fantastic time, and it's good to be on the show. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Sailing is back. It's nice. Post-COVID, or hopefully more or less post-COVID, and that's Neil Collingridge, our FOSI, who's normally on the show. John, of course, who reports regularly, and another terrific report at that. A lot of comments. Don't eat the tribble, John. Don't eat the tribble, John. San Miguel beer, Ted Ryman is observing and talking about wings and various other things as we go forward. But James Frederick Bland out in, presumably in Texas, saying the 1080p looks good. Well, hopefully, as I say, I'm watching not too nervously because we did test it extensively. We're solid 30 frames a second. And most broadcast TV and cinema is 24 frames a second. Most YouTubers do it at 30. That's how many actual, as if you were you are taking frames. In this, so far in this 20 minutes, 21 minutes we've been, and we've lost frames missed due to rendering lag 41. That's effectively 0.0%. Skip frames due to encoding lag 0.0%. So, and we're broadcasting at 4,000 kilobits a second. So those of you who are techno nerds will appreciate some of that, or maybe not. Back to Collingridge for a minute. Neil, did I say John? I meant Neil Collingridge. And I went onto his Facebook page. He sails not only lasers, but he also sails, this is a Wayfarer, which I first sailed up in London, Ontario, Canada. It's a big class in Canada. Oh, Canada. And his daughter, Daisy Collingridge, he's not there coaching. He's really just there as a proud papa. And watching for a few days and enjoying the ambiance, as he said in that video. His daughter is in 9th place, doing well in the laser radial, or what is now the ILCA 6. Sarah Douglas, one of our FOSI, who's been on the show once or maybe twice now from Canada, is leading. So that's nice to see. Congratulations to both of them. It's only day 2 of what is a week-long regatta. And John will be reporting again on Friday, no doubt. I think it wraps Friday or Saturday? And so it's the first big Olympic classes event of this cycle, COVID having intervened from much of last year. Nice stuff. And before we move on to talking, I've got a video from that regatta in Palma, but we're talking about lasers and laser masters and master mentors, which we call John Emmett. Do you, Julia, know who this is? From Perth, WA, a laser sailor. I'll give you another clue. Many people on here will know, who's especially media types. Neil Collingridge is saying, I'm not sure seeing me in HD is a good thing.
I know, me neither, Neil. I know.
That is, now does that help? You probably don't. I don't know that you've met him, Julia, but he's been on the show and we've feeded Bob Fisher, the late great Bob Fisher, and he is one of the top yachting journalists, in the world. Peter Stevenson down in Australia knows who it is. It's John Roberson, aka Robo. Yeah. So have you met Robo?
At St. Francis.
Oh, really? I hear it at the club.
He's Joyce Anderson's favorite.
Well, he's many people's favorite, and I only got to know him, only in 85, 6, and 7 down in Perth leading up to that cup. Well, Robo posted on his Facebook page 14 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours ago. I guess I took this off a couple hours ago. He says 70 bloody 5. How the hell did that happen? It was only yesterday that I was 18. And he says, in Laser Masters parlance, I am now a legend.
That's 11.
And Robo, you were always a legend. You've been a legend, and I don't mean a legend in your own mind. You've been a legend to all of us, how you've covered the sport. As one of these guys who, because he's a great sailor, makes him an even better journalist.
Yes.
I mean, you can talk about, Bernie Wilson is one of the few really great mainstream journalists who's also not a great sailor, and Robo certainly is all that. John Roberson, happy 75th, you legend. Really delighted for you. This is back to Palma now. I have the day 1 video. They hadn't issued the day 2 video, at least when we went to air. I checked just before we went to air, but this is the video from yesterday's racing at the Princess Sofia Trofeo in Palma, in Mallorca.
It's super exciting to be here again.
A complete new world. Suddenly they were just blasting past us.
Well, I don't know if that wins any awards for music, Julia, but it's a nice video.
It
and,
is.
And it's good that World Sailing is putting these out apparently daily, and we'll be checking. Hopefully they are. But there's some comments here. Yeah, Joy Shearell out in Hawaii saying, Robo, he had his 75th birthday yesterday. Indeed. Well, as you saw by now, we've celebrated that. My beloved mother, Janice Davis in Michigan. Beautiful day in sunny Ann Arbor. Hi, everyone. Julia, did you know, I know you were a big fan of Stanford and of Stanford, Palo Alto here, but did you know that Ann Arbor, Michigan has the highest
PhDs?
Well, it's not only that, but apparently it's the best educated town of 150,000 people on the planet. More PhDs, more masters, more college degrees. Of course, a lot of them are working in restaurants and driving taxi cabs. But
I've read that.
Nonetheless, right town, Ann Arbor. It's an education factory or education community. GBR is dominating the ILCA 7. John Emmett is saying the music is fine. They are in Palma after all. Steve Gruber says. Yeah, my mother's got a soft spot in her heart for Pedro. Anybody else? Yeah, we're talking about the settings. If you, in fact, even with the gigabit internet connection that we have here, if I don't click on the cog and say 1080p, or if I'm watching a 4K video, which is 2180, is it 2180, 2160, whatever it is, it'll default to something lower because it's not so much your internet. Well, it can be your internet connection. It's trying to set it if you've got a slower internet connection. But they're also trying, I can't imagine how YouTube and Facebook, but YouTube sends so much video out constantly all
incredible.
The time. It's astonishing.
It is.
Notwithstanding all the video that's getting uploaded to them every minute of every day. So you have to go click on that little cogwheel and change it to 1080p if you're somehow defaulting to 720, as several of you have said. And no, I'm afraid we can't call it the ILCA. You can call it what you want. Just don't call me late for dinner, right? Because the ILCA is what World Sailing's calling it. And I know Bruce Kirby, our late great friend, John Lammert's Van Buren, we would really rather call it the laser. And that's what I grew up sailing and so on. But speaking of the IQ foil, Magnus Wheatley had a very nice column, a post on it this morning. And I'm going to quote from it because he called it the IQ test because of the way they spell the name of the IQ foil. The most important thing in the Olympic Games, Magnus is saying, is not winning but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering but fighting well. Of course, that's a quote from the founder of the Olympics, of the modern Olympics, Pierre de Coubertin, the father of the modern Olympic Games. May well be right now, but right now down in the Bay of Palma, winning is everything because it's this first regatta, as we mentioned. And he focused on the IQ foil in this article. And he said, yes, the 51st Trofeo Sofia Mallorca, is that what it's called now? Princess.
That's a good name.
Good name. Has come thundering onto the schedule with a runway to the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Games on the 26th July 2024. That schedule, by the way, the yachting, all the Olympic schedules have been released. They just came out this week. I may have even posted a link on my Facebook page. All the Olympic classes are heating up. It's a marvelous spectacle of youth and ambition, with wise heads leading the less experienced who may well be on a different games trajectory, meaning, maybe the 2028 games, and kicking the tires now. And a natural pecking order starting to form. Brilliant to watch. It must be wonderful to be one of the 1,000+ sailors taking part. Couldn't agree more, Magnus. The IQ foil, I think I spelled that correctly, and that is the correct spelling. They use lowercase I. Has really caught my eye in this cycle, and all the new disciplines and diversity included this time. I think it's rapidly capturing the Citius Altius Fortius moniker of the Olympic spirit. Magnus goes on to say the windsurfing discipline needed a reboot, and they got it. Bravo Zulu, 100% totally agree. Foiling boards are everywhere at the moment, especially at the semi-grassroots level, and this is translating into top-flight competition with new specialists of the sport, showing us just how close and exciting this racing can be. The slalom courses are a bonsai crazy 5 minutes of all-out action that is electrifying to watch. It must be mind-boggling to compete in, and the action at the front of the fleet is intense in the standard races. Well said, Magnus. And he went on to say one more thing. I just like that picture. Let me go back. I love these pictures.
Yes.
coming out of World Sailing. Now I could bang on another 1,000 words about Mickey Beckett in the Laser Ilka 7s or Jordy Schammer. Yes, Jordy from Sail GP 2 weekends ago crashed into Jimmy. And Jordy sailing down there, he's a 470 whiz sailing for Spain. But I'll spare you and leave that for another day as the results start coming through. But everywhere I look, there are stories aplenty. It's a gold mine of interest. Well said, Magnus. The Bay of Palma is alive with youth and brilliance, and it reminds me of that other famous Olympic quote, "Don't buy gold, earn it," unquote. The race for the medals in Marseille is well and truly underway. Palma is the perfect stop-off to start seeing who's in form and who can handle the big time. I love this closing sentence. Is everything happening in Spain these days?
Yes.
Magnus, you think? Julie, what's your comment?
Oh, I'm just enjoying Magnus, and I think he's spot on.
Admit it, you got a thing for him.
Well, I don't think he has a thing for me.
Well, why not? Everybody does. As a former pro windsurfer, Commodore Tom Pace at the Pensacola Yacht Club is saying, current club officer and fully in support of our Olympic hopeful foilers, thank you, Magnus, for your words and the enthusiasm for IQ foil. Couldn't agree more. And of course, the best thing maybe about the IQ foils, Paul Henderson has been banging on about, as have the Kiwis, who first called it to my attention, because they were doing the foiling thing down there before we really saw it up here in the middle of their summer, our winter. Is the best thing is that maybe you do a little bit of pumping to get it up on the foil in light air, but not, or even in a bit of a breeze. But once you're up, they're not, they're not air rowing around the course. They're hooked in and holding on. It's fabulous stuff.
Yes.
Thanks, Tom Pace, for that. Clark Chapin, Sail GP fame or infamy, talking about Jordy Schammer. I think that the jury is still out, but he certainly has lots of potential. He absolutely does. Sam Beckett. Replying to Joe Chiarella, Clark Chapin saying, diploma mill, to paraphrase a famous quote, it isn't bragging if you have the Nobel Prizes to back it up. No, Michigan's not a diploma mill, Joe Chiarella. Maybe Michigan State, not University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And even Michigan State's a pretty good college in a lot of different fronts. Ohio State, of course, we all think Ohio State is a diploma mill, but it's also a great university as well. Sorry, Julie Ahrens. I had to say that. Really.
Yeah.
Magnus, great piece. Thank you again. If you're not subscribers to his Rule 69 blog, it's free. It comes into your email box, so you can go online and see it if you don't want to have it sent every day into your email inbox. But rule69.blog is the URL, and it is one of the best sources of information, even if you don't agree with him.
Yes.
It's nice, and I don't sometimes, usually agree with him, but not always. So I certainly don't agree with him about some of the cup things he said. And it just gives us, fodder.
Sure.
Grist for the mill. Grist
yes.
for the mill, right? Grist or grisset?
No, grist.
Grist, right? Some people say grisset.
No, that's gristle.
No, well, gristle too. And I'll gristle it sometimes at Magnus too, privately and publicly. Great stuff. Rule69.blog. Bravo Zulu to what's going on here in the ocean race, which doesn't start now. It's been postponed because of COVID. It was to be September. Now it's starting, I think, in January. But one of the people we've been following in the Vendée Globe closely, the German sailor who sails now for he's been sailing for the Yacht Club de Monaco, has just released a video. Boris Hermann, we're talking about. And Julia, we've been following him because he is German and he's attractive and he's always upbeat.
Yep.
Young guy. And we're going to follow him some more. And here is his latest video. Enjoy.
Well, I have read as a child books about the Whitbread race at the time, and the sailing magazines, the films, and it's inspired me tremendously. I'm super happy that we are now starting the race. I want this race to become part of the IMOCA class, our sailing race boat class from the Vendée Globe, and 2026, and then ongoing. I think really there can be something very strong if we have an agenda with both races around the world linking together, and that's basically driving me to do this one. And this is now 2/3 done. All the design work is finished, even all the details. We have already most of the ropes made with their little labels and their little color code and all that's already hanging in the container. And we have a launch on the 19th July in Lorient. And then we want to get this boat going as quickly as possible. Well, for me, that was a very natural thing. We have already, in the past years or decades on the IMOCAs, we have always been sailing with crews. Even like 15 years ago, there was a Europe race to Istanbul where there were 5 on board. And we had seen last summer that there was the Ocean Race Europe, which went fabulously with 5 people on board, 4 sailors and 1 onboard reporter. And so for me, there was a very positive surprise last summer again to see the feedback from these teams that had done it, and they were very happy with the even reduced space and ergonomy that an IMOCA has compared to a more traditional Volvo 65 boat, which is traditionally for bigger crews. And I therefore don't see any contradiction between both uses. For me, it's exactly the same boat. The big thing was that we are allowed to use autopilots in the ocean race. That means we don't have to think about a big steering wheel position, and that would have been a tremendous change compared to the Vendée Globe. That is not the case. That's not something we need to worry about. So we will sail the boat in a very similar way, mostly under autopilot. And for the Vendée Globe, I wanted to have a protected cockpit with a lot of windows and view and space to sleep next to the winch, where I have a kind of bench or bunk both sides in the cockpit. So I can sleep right next to the coffee grinder under all these windows. And that has kind of been a strong desire coming up in the last Vendée Globe. And this is also perfect for crew. Then 2 people can sit on the bench and 1 at the coffee grinder, and there's enough space for everyone. So I'm really looking forward to exploring this. This is the first boat design that I have been involved with. I have been heavily involved. I pushed a lot in one direction to go for a real offshore boat that is more tolerant to sea state and hopefully can go better through big waves and big sea state. So we will not just out of the box see like a flying ultra machine that is faster than anyone else. We will hopefully see a boat that is robust, safe, and that also can take me around the world in the Vendée Globe in the best condition and in the best average speeds in even very difficult sea conditions in the south. So this was the focus for the boat. And on the ocean race, maybe you would have put the cursor a little bit more towards an all-round boat, but who knows? We will find out where we stand in the competition, and hopefully anyway, this is not the last boat we build and not the last ocean race we do with the new boat.
Now that, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, is very nicely produced, edited, shot. Yacht Club de Monaco in the background that looks like a cruise ship, the new club, which is 5 or 6 years old now. It's just fabulous. Boris Herman, who's a very attractive multilingual personality. I mean, he's the George Clooney of our sport, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Do you see that?
Could well be.
Do you see that excellent video? Ryman is saying, Monica Diaz, great guy. Boris, yes. Nice video. Gordon Smith is agreeing. Gordon's also saying the Ocean Race Europe was excellent. Julia, you're Restream.io, right? That's your comment because you're on the Restream software here on your computer. Wow, check him out, Julia. Stingray is saying.
So I did.
J. Frederick Bland doesn't have any use for Ohio State or Michigan. He says, go, or Stanford. Go Navy.
Well, that's fair enough.
The Ocean Race it's starting in January, right? this coming January of 2023. Great video. Boris Herman, we're going to follow him again. And Julia, you like those German ship captains, those German sailors.
I do.
Great husband, of course, was. Conrad, we're going to revisit now the Mubadala. I think finally got the proper pronunciation of that event, the Mubadala Grand Prix, the SailGP event here in San Francisco. And they've issued a video because GoPro, the little cameras, the adventure cameras, are sponsoring, I guess, some of the, they're giving cameras or doing something, maybe even some cash into SailGP, but the sailors are all using these cameras in various places on the boats and beyond, and they produced now a GoPro special video from the regatta here a couple weekends ago. Watch. Nice looking venue, Julia.
Yes, that shows off San Francisco very well. Iconically beautiful and reliably windy, except in the last
Except
race.
the last Sunday. Oh, this video production is fantastic. Stingray saying offhand, I'd say that this video is it's a little long. It's a little too much, but well, I wouldn't not wanted to have to edit that, Clark Chapin. And I could have cut it off, but we'd like to see some of the stuff. We curate, this show is a curation of what we think is the cool stuff in the sport, topics and videos and images too, and the people, of course. Thank God the soundtrack was not deliverance. Clark Chapin said, the fisheye lens looks, as we used to say in the 70s, well, maybe in the 60s, Clark, chemically induced.
There were a couple really interesting shots, though.
A lot of streamers, instead of using the fancy cameras we use, they use the GoPros are reasonably, they're okay, but they use GoPros. You can get a clean HDMI out of these GoPros cameras, and you can do it without the fish lens look, obviously, and they're actually not too bad streaming cameras. And increasingly, GoPro was really hot for a while, and then they fell down, and now they're, because at the end of the day, you can use an iPhone like we do on camera 4.
Right.
And the iPhone, show you here. I'm still in my futzing around mode, but this is an iPhone. My camera 1, which is shooting me, Julia's camera 3, which is shooting her, and then we've got one over my shoulder, which is camera 2, which we're on now. But arguably the best camera in the whole place is the iPhone, which is shooting this monitor over here. If we ever want to point to a slide and say, oh, look at the big foil on this slide, as you all know that are regulars watching. So the iPhone is pretty darn good as a camera. It's just the camera control software, it's not as quite as neat. Although
the iPhone is a remarkable camera, though.
Well, it is. It's astonishingly good. It's it's astonishingly good. Okay, enough all this camera talk. It's great. Replying, Joe Holtzman, I see you on Joe. Replying to John Emmett, are you a pom-pom woolly hat guy? Okay. Making fun. Let's do my favorite segment, This Day in History. We've actually talked about this before, from memory. But it wasn't the day that, well, here, have a look. And this day in history, the 5th of April. I know it's the 6th down under. Sometimes we use things from the day down under. 1943, and it's just such a remarkable story, still to this day, of this guy who survived on a raft for, I think it was 133 days. And it was after, this is in 1943, when he was well, do you remember this story? He was a hand, a cook or something, I don't know, on a British ship that was sunk by German submarines off Brazil in the South Atlantic. And this guy's name is Poon Lim. He died, well, it was Poon Lim, he died in 91. He was a Chinese sailor who survived 133 days alone in the South Atlantic, the only survivor of this sinking. Lim worked as a second steward on the SS Bellamond, a British merchant ship that was sunk by an Untersee boat, a U-boat, on the 23rd of November. I think we must have covered this sometime in November, maybe not last year, a couple of years ago. He soon found an 8-foot wooden raft with supplies. When the supplies ran low, he resorted to fishing, catching seabirds, and rain collection, including sharks. On the 5th of April, 1943, Lim was rescued by 3 Brazilian fishermen as he neared the coast of Brazil. After his return to the UK, he was awarded a British Empire Medal by King George VI. After the war, he emigrated to the United States, where he was a consultant of the U.S. Navy about survival at sea, as you would.
Absolutely.
So he's quite the deal. When told no one had ever survived longer on a raft at sea, Lim replied, quote, I hope no one will ever have to break that record. People who have since lived longer lost at sea. 3 Mexican sailors floated for 10 months from 2005 to 2006 in the Pacific Ocean, but they were in a boat. They were in a fishing boat. In a similar situation, Jose Salvador Alvarenga, a fisherman from El Salvador, was apparently lost for 439 days, floating from Mexico to the Marshall Islands. But again, he was in some kind of a fishing boat, but not on a raft. As of 2021, no one has broken Lim's record on the life raft this day in history in 43. He was rescued, Poon Lim, after 33 days floating on a raft.
And remained sane.
Yeah, apparently. He was apparently quite the deal. Probably was having fun. Maybe he got away from his wife or his boyfriend, or who knows who, Julia.
Or the war.
Pindar says it gives a whole new perspective to the saying, being out on a limb. Howard Hughes died today in 1976 at the age of 70. Is there an international You Poor Bastard award? Poon Lim died in 1991 after a long life. I am going to talk about the Cup. Several of you are saying, just forget about the Cup. It's over. It's going to be in Barcelona. But you know me. I'm like a pit bull. I don't give up. I still think it should be in Auckland, and I will still think that, even as I watch the back and forth between those who are very pro-Barcelona. I love the town. I think it's just going to be not such a great place for the Cup. So this is the AC37 Cup Day at about the vexed venue victory with a question mark. And remember, several of you, a number of you said, give up on the non-sailing CEO, Tom. Remember that, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
Give up on the non-sailing CEO campaign. Not that we got rid of him single-handedly, but we certainly helped. Or the beleaguered, befuddled president of World Sailing, who's, by the way, has launched all sorts of legal stuff and complaints against people who are on that disciplinary commission, or whatever they call that board, Crutonicism. The Cup continues, and the people who are close to Mr. Dalton, will be getting money themselves from the event, or, Barcelona will be fine. Europeans who want to be able to fly down on the weekend and watch the event. And it will probably help with the number of teams. We'll see. But it could still fall over. And several of you say, no, Tom, don't say that. You're only playing into the hands. Look, if it falls over, it's not because of anything we say or do. But one hears, construction going on out in the backyard, Julie. One hears, they still don't have the environmental impact statement. It has not been approved. Julie Aarons say, why not get Peter Lester on the show? Well, maybe we'll get Peter Lester on the show. But I want to play this video, nonetheless, once again, because it's a beautiful, well-done video, beautifully produced, about this just super windy venue. Look at that picture. Super windy. There's not a lot of wind in Barcelona. Although we're going to talk about that too. Enjoy. Look, you all know I love the Cup. I love Barcelona. I spent a lot of time there. And I hope it is a fabulous event. I hope, notwithstanding, there is breeze there at times. And you remember John Emmett was there in, March? Yeah. Last year, was it? Whenever they had the Masters. It's not particularly breezy. It can either be really breezy or really light for days on end. And I remember, Valencia's just down the shore, 2 hours, where we lived for 8 years, and we went through the two Cups, both in 2007 and 2010. Remember how many delays we had?
Yes.
For lack of wind, or in
yeah,
one or two cases, too much wind, too much lump. I hope it's a fabulous event if it comes off in Barcelona. I still think they've made a big mistake by not doing it in Auckland. And on Friday, in the Correct or Crutonic segment, I am going to rank the teams, the defender and the challengers, in the order that I think the current pecking order is, and I think you're going to be in for a surprise. I've talked to a lot of people, talked to a lot of you, the FOSI. You all can weigh
No matter
in.
where it sailed?
Well, no, I'm talking about if it's in Barcelona.
Okay.
If it's back in Valencia, in Auckland, rather, I think the Kiwis have a huge advantage. I think they would win probably again, hands down. If it's in Europe, if it's in Barcelona in particular, the Kiwis won't win. I firmly believe, and I've said that before. I'll say it again, and I'll tell you on Friday who I think is going to win.
Oh,
and,
I haven't heard
and
that.
why.
I look
You
forward
haven't.
to it. No.
But some more here. It's light. Then this whole idea, they keep saying it's an average 9 to 15 knots. I called Mark Michelson. Mark said, no, sorry, it's not. And he sent me some charts and graphs, which I showed you all on Friday. Long story short, on October 1st, the average peak wind speed is 9.9 miles per hour. That's 8.6 knots. And they're going to have to tune these, and they already are. They're reducing the number of people on the boats because they've probably long since figured out it was going to be in a lighter air venue than Auckland, meaning the Middle East or maybe Spain. And they're going to have to power these boats up and probably have already done so. Now, contrary-minded is one of our FOSI who's on here watching today, and I want to thank him for contributing because we like to get all views. John Lammerts van Buren, who is Dutch. I think both his grandparents were Scottish, but he is Dutch through and through, born and raised, and he's a terrific sailor, good friend to many of you. And he sent in a few pictures and a few comments. My favorite photo of me, he's on the bow of an 8-meter Hollandia, which Dougie Peterson designed back in the day, and it's a fantastic boat that has won 6 world championships. And I think John's probably been on board for most of those. He is sailing a lot of different boats. He sails, you know that boat is? That he sails particularly in the classic yachts.
Yeah.
And it's a fabulous boat, famous boat. It's a Fife cutter, a 1928 precursor to the J class. It's a 23-meter, meaning the rule, Fife cutter called Cambria, not to be confused with the Cambria, which was involved in the America's Cup in the very early days in the 1870s. But he has been sailing on this boat, and he says she was designed, I asked him to send us some info because I'm going to show you a picture and a video of it sailing in Barcelona. She was designed and built by William Fife in 1928. She measures 41 feet overall. Her Sitka spruce mast is fully 50 meters tall.
Wow.
Her kite is 985 square meters, just shy of 10,000 square feet. Mainsail 450 square meters. She has been in the same family for the past 20 years as a normal season. We race it, he says, in Antibes, Argentario, Mahon, Barcelona, Cannes, Monaco, and Saint-Tropez in the Classic Yacht Regattas. Not sure what I did to deserve to be on board, but what a lucky bugger I am. Fully agree. And here's a couple of photos he sent. And this is just fabulous stuff. Yeah, we've done Formula London Barcelona too. That was always one of our favorite races. And look at this. Now that's Barcelona. It can be windy. There's no question. It can be breezy in Barcelona. Gorgeous, Julie Aarons is saying. And here is a video on Cambria. Now, is that beautiful or what?
Reminds me that heavy wooden boats really like to sail.
They do, especially in breeze, like San Francisco Bay, right?
Yeah.
So thanks, John, for that. And there is breeze there. There can be breeze, and I hope there is plenty of breeze. Don't get me wrong. It was July, John is saying. It's a lot lighter in September and October, just like it is here in September and October. Fun to discuss the ultimate venue for racing, but GD's job, Chris Bulger is saying, Chris disagrees with me, is to find the money so his team can win. They can win without breeze, but no cash, no splash. Sorry, Chris. I firmly believe they could have and did and would have, and if as as we've heard from New Zealand again and again, if Barcelona falls over, I think there'll be plenty of dough. They'll go back to Auckland, and there'll be plenty of dough, and there would have been if he wanted to go there. Mr. Dalton was already looking for a place to go outside of Auckland before they'd even won it.
That's correct.
And that's just not correct to go. Barca in October is breezy in the latter part. Well, it can be, Mark. We'll see, hopefully. How come he didn't get wet? Julie Aarons is saying. Well, he's up a little higher to get off the lured rail. Seems like a good time to be wearing a PFD. Ah, come on, Clark. Wow, great video. Chris Bulger is saying. Is it Bulger, Chris, or Bulger? How do you pronounce it? We have a couple of extremely windy days at the Ilka Worlds, the Ilka Masters. Yes, well, you can. What month was that, John Emmett? Barcelona is the venue. It won't fall over. We shall see, Gordon Smith. We shall see. And if it is, I hope it's a terrific regatta. If it falls over, well, it falls over. These people are very happy. They could not contain themselves. They would not, even though they were supposed to wait for Team New Zealand to get all their T's crossed and I's dotted. The mayor and the president of the community of the Catalonian region could not help themselves. They all started leaking it ahead of time. And I'm telling you, that is a leaky ship there in the community, in the community dot. Time to get behind the AC, John Emmett is saying. Well, I cannot get behind an event that has been, in my opinion, sold to the highest bidder for the benefit of people who, well, I'm not going to say more than that. So I'm behind the AC. I've been behind the AC, John Emmett, since 1980 in one capacity or another, but I also cannot support Croutonicism, which I continue to believe this is. Okay, you know what I think and how I feel. So I won't belabor the point anymore than I already.
Nobody's doubting that.
I already have.
Yeah.
Jim Farmer, and I'm not going to. I thought I'd just run his screed. He ran a great piece on his legal blog. James Farmer QC, latest legal commentaries. I'm not even going to read it here. You can go read it yourself. He posted it yesterday. And it's a fabulous piece of writing. And Jim, as a lawyer, only Jim and other good lawyers can do, he took every argument and pierced the arguments. He just poked holes in every argument that was made before and after. You can read that on his personal blog, his legal blog, jamesfarmerqc.co.nz. And I won't say more than that. Also, Mr. Dunphy has come out, Kiwi Home Defense, and he was interviewed by Stuff, and the media down there are up and down, left, right, and center, all over this. I make no apologies for being patriotic when it comes to the America's Cup, Mark Dunphy has said. And perhaps the key paragraph, the money shot here, the money quote. For the record, we stand ready to help should Barcelona fall over, which it might. Of the 70 million, 110 million Kiwi allegedly offered, 70 million euros rather, 110 million Kiwi allegedly offered. 40 million is reportedly from the community, that's the Catalonia region. And the Barcelona City Council, maximum 10 million euros from the council. 25 million on a best efforts, not firm basis from the nonprofit Barcelona and Partners. That's the business kind of Chamber of Commerce type organization. And 5 million euros from the Barcelona Tourism Consortium. It has been acknowledged publicly that the funding also includes private sources. The question is whose resources? If you believe Magnus Wheatley, those other private sources are Qatari interests from Qatar. If Barcelona does happen, I hope the team successfully defends the cup for the squadron to bring it back to New Zealand. But there's breaking news on that front, Julia, as I told you last night. The deal is that if they win the cup, and it's in Barcelona, they will defend it again. At least Barcelona has the first right of refusal, not just negotiation, assuming it's a pari passu kind of, it's a similar kind of a deal. So if you think this cup's going back to Auckland for 27 or 28, just because they said, oh, don't worry, we'll defend it one time overseas and then whatever happens. Excuse me, it's not. Once it goes offshore, it's offshore, Julia. Okay, so that's what's going on. This guy's got his arms around the cup. He does not want anybody looking into his books down in New Zealand. I think that's what everybody is reporting and saying, and why, I'm not quite sure. But if it does happen in Barcelona, I hope it doesn't, but if it does, I hope it's a terrific event, enjoyed by all, and that there's plenty of wind. I'll say nothing more than that, except what I said the other day, to take the cup, the iconic cup, the oldest trophy in international sports, away from the country that has poured time, effort, money, blood, sweat, and tears into hosting it, and now to send it offshore. This, in my never humble opinion, is an abomination. I hope it doesn't come to pass. And that's the last I'll say about it, probably.
For 5 minutes.
Well, I won't say any more about it on this show, but maybe until Friday.
Yeah.
This is fair on Barcelona. They put up, found the money. Yeah, John, well, then why are they telling New Zealand, oh, don't worry, we'll bring it back after Barcelona? How many challengers from Europe? Gordon Smith, it doesn't matter how many challengers from Europe, how many well-connected challengers and investors from Europe. This is a done deal. Probably is. Probably is. We'll see. What else did people say up above? Replying to Mark Husted, Clark Chapin, nothing better than a history of being there in the time of the month in previous years. Yeah, true. And of course, the regatta, the weather at a regatta, it's never like that.
I know. Everybody always says that.
September and October could be fabulous, or it could be light, or it could be both. Remember who funded the Kiwis win in Bermuda? Yeah, Chris. Bulger or Bulger, Chris? I think it's Bulger, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, let's change the topic. We'll get off the America's Cup. That was pretty short. That was pretty short, Julia.
It was.
Huh?
It was for you. The points across.
I wanted to say, I'll tell you, I wanted to go back and say, why would anybody ever want to win the cup and take it home now that, they set this, but I won't. 1080p. God, I'm getting old. Is it correct or Crutonic? We're not going to talk about the America's Cup or the America's Cup venue, but about the latest decision by U.S. Sailing. And here is their decision. U.S. sailing guidance, it's really further guidance on participation, on the participation ban or a participation ban. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, World Sailing joined the International Olympic Committee and global sports organizations in taking the decision to suspend participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials in their events, that means World Sailing's events, until further notice. Additionally, the world governing body for the sport of sailing strongly urged its member national authorities, class associations, affiliated bodies, and all event organizers to implement the measure to suspend the participation of Russian or Belarusian athletes, I think it should have said and officials in their respective events and competitions. I need some iced coffee, Julia. I wonder if 1080p affects my voice. That's a joke. We do have more compression on my mic channel today, thanks to Gordon Smith and a couple others. So back to U.S. Sailing and what they just done. Well, they have passed a prescription to the racing rules here that applies in the states. U.S. Sailing prescribes that an organizing authority or race committee shall not reject. This has always been in effect. This first part shall not reject or cancel the entry of a boat or exclude a competitor eligible under the notice of race and sailing instructions for an arbitrary or capricious reason, or for reasons of race, color, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, or age. Julia, they can't reject our entry just because we're old. Okay, that's boilerplate. That's standard, at least here in the U.S. I hope it is in your country. That always makes sense and always has made sense. However, an organizing authority or race committee may exclude a competitor, this is the new part, who is a citizen of or holds a World Sailing ID as an MNA member of a country listed on the U.S. Sailing website at that URL, sailing.org/exclusion. You will not be surprised that you go to that website, that page on their website, and citizens of the Republic of Belarus, BLR, and the Russian Federation may be excluded under this new U.S. Sailing prescription issued, I guess, yesterday or the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Friday. It was sometime in the last few days.
Yeah.
So is this correct or Crutonic? Now, again, this is a U.S. Sailing giving local organizations, classes, clubs, organizing authorities, OAs as we call them, the permission to exclude for no other reason than they are Belarusian citizens or Russian citizens. Again, holders of world sailing IDs from these MNAs may be excluded, or citizens may be excluded. Not shall be excluded. Not shall be excluded. They if Julia at the Beach Street Yacht Club runs a regatta here and decides to let a Russian who may be here in San Francisco, or maybe came here for the regatta, or a Belarusian, it's up to the OA to do that. So what do you all say? Is that correct, or is it Crutonic, this policy? Stingray says correct. I feel for the competitors, but they should be excluded. Ted Ryman says it's Crutonic. Should not be optional. Paul Homchick says it's not correct. Why, Paul, do you think? Gordon Smith says it's correct. Paul, do you think it's not correct because they should be excluded ipso facto? The OA should not be allowed to allow them to race. Clark Chapin, correct for reasons stated above. And Clark said Russia has in the last week become a truly pariah nation. I have sympathy for. So, see, there's two different issues here. Clark is saying it's okay if the OA wants to exclude them. And some of you are saying that the OA should absolutely exclude them. I guess we should simplify this and say, should organizing authorities here in the U.S. or anywhere else, so forget about the U.S. sailing policy for a minute, should Russian citizens and Belarusian citizens be excluded from events irrespective of what the OA thinks? And that should be the policy from down high. Is that right? Homchick, not excluded if they haven't done anything themselves. Okay, that's what I thought you meant, Paul. Chris is saying, correct, better to have the guidance for clubs and way better to boycott than send our boys, girls over there. Okay, Jeff Ogle. Hi, Jeff, long time. What about people from those countries that have disavowed themselves of the actions of their governments? Are they SOL? Are they out of luck?
Yeah.
U.S. sailing has no moral high ground here, John Sangmeister saying. What do you mean, John? What do you say? Gordon Smith, I am not sure that it will actually influence Russia's actions, but Russians in general need to be affected by the actions of their government. Emmett saying that's the correct policy. But John Emmett, do you think they should be excluded? Forget about the option to accept or exclude. Should they just simply be excluded or not? What do I say? Paul Homchick is asking. I'll come to that in a minute. I didn't want to get out front here of the comment. Any other comments, Julia? The comments have slowed down here.
I have.
Smith, correct, not correct. Yeah.
Ted Ryman.
What's Ryman say? He said not correct, right?
I feel for the competitors, but they should be excluded.
Should be excluded, yeah. Russian sailors had nothing to do with this goddamn war, Stingray is saying. Oh, no course language, except I can use course language, especially at 1080p. 16 courser at 1080p. Is the AV sync good? We also tested that. The audio and the visual. They should be excluded, Greg Phillips is saying. Greg is an Aussie. Ed Worley, banned sailing events and Russian organizers, not individuals. Paul Homchick, retype that for us, Paul. Hut, Russia. I don't know. It's a hard question. I agree with the comments foregoing, Julia, that it's not going to have any impact on Putin or the Russian. I don't think it will, at least no time soon.
He should not be invited.
He should not be invited. Video and sounds good. Thanks, Ed Worley. Hurt Russia. Will it hurt Russia? Will it hurt Russia? I don't know. What I like about the U.S. sailing policy, and you've heard me say this before, I like local control. I'm really glad you're shaking your head yes too, Julie, because you're a de Tocquevillian, you're a libertarian, and I really like that U.S. sailing didn't say you got to ban these people. They could have. Mm-hmm. They could have. And now the U.S. Sailing has banned them from their own events, meaning the U.S. Sailing Youth Championships, the U.S. Sailing this, that, or the other thing that's an owned and controlled and operated event by U.S. Sailing. They've already banned them, but they've just given guidance and put in a racing rule as a prescription that allows local organizing authorities to do as they seem fit. And I agree with that. I think if we're sitting here at the Beach Street Yacht Club and we have some Russian or Belarusian friend who happens to be a citizen but is here on vacation or living here, and we're quite confident has nothing to do with the war and no use for the war and no use for Putin, wants to sail in our event, And if you, as the Commodore, say, tell the race committee, hey, I really think we ought to let them sail because they're good people, I'm fully with it. So I think the U.S. sailing policy is good.
And they could win the trophy.
Sure, as a Russian or Belarusian. So I like local control. I think there are exceptions, like we were seeing there the other day in Valencia, when on an earlier show, when we saw there were some kids in Optis down in Valencia, Spain, training in some kind of a winter Opti clinic or early spring Opti clinic or something. And if those kids are banned, they've had nothing to do. Maybe they were Ukrainian, but if they were Russian or Belarusian, and they, excuse me, you're going to ban those kids from being able to train in an Opti regatta for something they have nothing to do with. What do you all think? Steve Gruber, isn't the whole point of excluding any Russian citizen to sway the opinion of them regarding their leaders' policies? Yeah, but will that do that, and will it have any effect? John Emmett, you need to consider Ukraine sailors. In most circumstances, Russian, Belarus sailors should be banned. Yeah, maybe. I'm not disagreeing with that. I just think I firmly want local control. Fritz Mueller says the Russian government, oh man, the comments are coming now. Fritz Mueller, the Russian government is not going to back down because the rest of the world's countries barking at them. There has to be a revolution from within. Yeah, okay. Allow Russian sailors in exile and sail and compete, but not represent Russia. Yeah, okay. Ed, I'm not sure that makes a lot of difference, does it? Who they're representing. Yeah, okay, maybe. Maybe you don't want them to have RUS on their sail or BLR on their sail. You want them to have, tell them to compete under OLY or that's not the right code either. Pedro Foiling sailor down in Australia, a Russian performance at the opening night ballet at the Opera House went ahead last night. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Well, was it a Russian troupe? Who was doing it at the Opera House in Sydney, that fabulous, iconic opera house? I think Russia has possibly already given up on capturing Kyiv. I hope you're right, John Emmett, but man, the atrocities that have been going on, apparently, if you believe the Western media at least. So, as usual, we got a bunch of bright people on here with interesting and varied opinions, all of which we respect and appreciate. Correct or Crutonic, I'm not sure. I do think it was correct for U.S. sailing not to tell local clubs in classes, local organizing authorities, national classes, to do A, B, or C, black, white, or gray. Let people, locally smart people, make the decisions based on the guidance from above. John Emmett replying to Ted Ryman, well, I doubt we will see them in Paris 2024. Yeah. Peter Stevenson said that opera was a Sydney performance of a Russian choreography. Well, excuse me, you're not going to stop that, are you? Peter, you're not saying that they should have been banned, are you? I mean, again, I go back, I'm old. I go back to the 1980 Olympic boycott.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., when President Jimmy Carter called, I was executive director of U.S. Sailing, called the president executive directors of all the summer sports to Washington, D.C. We thought to ask us what we thought. And Warren Christopher, who was then the Secretary of State, nice guy, by the way, he's long gone. Yeah. He was a Stanford guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and San Francisco.
Oh, he was? Well, he was a nice guy. And he called us into the big auditorium at the State Department. And he said, by the way, there is going to be a boycott, and we're here to explain why, and you're going to support it. And if you don't, we're going to take away your tax-exempt charitable status, your 501c3. We didn't have any choice. And the late great Harmon Hawkins, who was then president, we went downstairs and the media cameras and, we said, excuse me, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, this is going to have no effect. Why our athletes have been training for 4 years. In fact, I had an argument with Harmon. Harmon said, we got to support our government. We got to support this boycott.
Yeah.
I said, Harmon, excuse me, we can't say that, A, and B, it's wrong. I mean, it's better to say nothing than to say that. So that's another era. Want a real S-storm, non-nationals who are Russian citizens forced to repatriate to Russia. Yeah. I mean, that's like putting the Japanese in internment camps here in California and leading up to World War II or during World War II. Japanese good American citizens who happen to be Japanese ethnicity. Excuse me, you can't do that. I think on case-by-case basis, if there was some Japanese guy running around downtown San Francisco or downtown LA with a white flag with the rising sun flag and shouting war, put that guy in an internment camp or send it back to Japan. But that's why local control, make up your minds. And you all would, in fact, if we put just about any issue in our sport to the FOSI and said, what do you think? I think the FOSI would come up with the right answer most, if not all the time. In fact, by definition, they usually do. And by definition, they would. Yeah, your shirt's a little pink on that camera, a little red on that camera. Which is close? I think that's the closer color, isn't it?
Yes, the second one.
Okay, I'm going to adjust your color. Not today, but for future shows, the saturation on that camera is a little overwrought, maybe. That brings us to a really nice video. We're an hour and 20 minutes in, and things talking about COVID at the top of the show and how this is so nice for John Emmett and Neil Collingridge and all the sailors that are in Palma and all the rest of you that are able to sail around the world. They're also sailing again in the Caribbean. The spring regatta's down there. The BVI spring regatta is in full force, and they have produced a really nice video produced by T2P TV and the regatta folks down there. It's a little long, and I'll play most of it, but really sit back and enjoy
Such a great
the
place
sights
to
and
sail.
sounds of British Virgin Islands.
I'm Judy Petz, the director of the BVI Spring Regatta and Sailing Festival, and this is our 49th year. Has to almost be one of our best. We have had the most amazing week of racing. Obviously the winds are still blowing, fortunately just a little less today, so those who raced around Tortola and have been in some 20, 25 knot, 30 knot breezes have a little bit of a respite today. We are just so thrilled to be back on the water racing, 70 boats out there. After 2 years of postponement for the 49th anniversary, we're just so excited. We've been able to bring back so many of the elements of the spring regatta. The village is fantastic, the music is playing, the rum is being poured, the beers are being drank, and the camaraderie is the most important part. We're just so pleased. The people behind the scenes have made this event what it is today. There are so many people who have put 20 plus years into making this event what it is, and they're here today over the last week, over the last 2 weeks actually, making this event happen, and we just couldn't be happier. So on this Sunday, the last day of the 49th BVI Spring Regatta and Sailing Festival, great winds, great racing, great rum, great beer. Thank you.
Does that look nice or what?
Oh yes, it's great. I've been at a couple sailing events there that were really heavenly.
Fabulous. I just wanted to remind everybody what our sport used to look like. Steve Gruber's got it. I'll come back to that after looking at this nice video. Unfortunately, yeah, okay, everybody's talking about the internment camps. That's good. I'm glad you all came back on that. Look at this. Just fabulous. That's where they should run the cup.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Andy Friedman, and this is Papillon. It's a Dufour 460 GL. And we've been having a lot of fun sailing this down here for the last few years, and we just love it. David and Tony are with me this year. We've been sailing together for probably 40 years. It works pretty well. It works pretty well. Just the three of us without the spinnaker. Yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge, but we're okay with it. It's a fun boat to sail, even though it's a cruising boat. The starts are always so competitive. That's what makes it fun.
Ted Ryman says, my kind of sail.
The weather is beautiful.
Look at it.
The seas,
Got some
steady
sun.
winds. It's challenging.
You see the people hanging out in the cockpits of the boats having
the
a
scenery
cocktail
going around
and a
the
snack.
islands. And then everybody here, everybody's so welcoming and meeting all these wonderful folks from around the world. It's just really, it's special. It really is.
Well, there's a paint job. So the VO about 65.
It's a great picture.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous video. Remind us that the sport is back, that there is life after COVID, hopefully, knock on wood. And also, I've downloaded these videos at 1080p. So I hope they look good
They do.
on your devices. Tell us, in fact, what kind of a device, if you don't mind, put in the comments below what kind of a device you're watching this on. That would be helpful if you did that. Nice stuff, eh, Julia? Chris Bulger is saying just made last minute Easter plans for USVI. Everything down there is sold out and prices are up. I believe it.
Yeah, that is not news.
Pierre DeYoung and Rob Fry are both hi Rob Fry are both watching on iPads. Your favorite device, Julia, iPads.
I've never,
Ace, go ahead.
I've never really learned to use an iPad.
It's just like your phone. It's just a big iPhone.
No, it's bigger.
Acer laptop on an old Dell screen. Samsung's 2021 14-inch MacBook. Well, that's a pretty nice device. Watching on his TV, Rob Sternstein is saying. Watching on an iPad Air 4, fantastic picture, replying to Clark and to the everlasting, yeah, upheld by the Supreme Court. It was not correct. iPhone 10, I'm on a budget, Pedro Filing Sailor is saying. Well, I've got an iPhone 11 that I'm watching it on. Monitoring this, the integrity of the stream. HP laptop with an attached monitor, Clark is saying. Beautiful pictures, beautiful blue water, beautiful blue sky, people having fun. Sean Leary, thank you. iPhone 12 looking great.
Would go with an Acer laptop on an old Dell screen. Making it.
So it's a combination of laptops and phones and iPads and a few big screen TVs. I know Sangmeister, if he's home and not out driving his kids around or running the restaurant, often watches it on his big screen TV. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, that's what our sports should be about. Thank you to BVI Race Week. This goes on for a while, so I think I'll bring this down. T2TPV, whatever that's, that Annapolis group.
And Worley's in his car traveling.
He is?
Yeah.
Julia, do you notice something here?
What?
Look at your shirt on camera 3.
Yes.
Look at your shirt on camera 2.
Very close.
I brought down your saturation on your camera 3 to match camera 2. It looks better.
Okay.
So that's, but now your Himalayan salt light, mic's on, mic's off.
Yes.
It's not quite as colorful. Steve Groover, Apple desktop looks great. Been meaning to check out the big screen on the tube, but hard to comment there. Yeah, can't we have a cooking show from Sangmeister's restaurant? You know, John's a darn good cook. And we talked about that during the tech checks over the weekend. I hope you're detailing somebody other than me to somehow tab it. No, we don't need that. Thanks, Clark. Clark, who is our statistician, strategist. He keeps track of our viewership, which continues to go up thanks to the BVI Spring Regatta, the 49th. I'm glad they had it after a couple of years off, and delighted to get now to our D block, which is a little different D block than usual, Julia.
Our friend is there, though.
Our friend is there. I think you'll enjoy this. In Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And these are FOSI submissions. This could go back to being Foxtrot Sierra FOSI submissions, maybe. This first one, we talked, again, I guess on Friday, but also during the tech check.
Yeah.
Apropos of this Vegemite that I have here on the desk that was sent by a FOSI. Well, inevitably Marmite came up as well, and people are saying, what's Marmite? Especially Americans who don't know what it is. And some people talk about love it or hate it. Talk about the America's Cup venue in Barcelona. What is Marmite made from? Did you know, Julie, before you read this?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's a British staple. Marmite was actually invented by a German scientist, Justus von Liebig, who realized you could transform leftover yeast from beer brewing into a high-protein byproduct. Marmite's main ingredients are yeast extract, salt, and extracts from spices and vegetables. Mm-hmm. It also boasts added nutrient fortifications, including vitamin B12, riboflavin, and folic acid. The yeast extract contains free on and on and on, and MSG and so on. It gives Marmite its distinct, very salty taste. And either you like it or you don't. I don't know anybody who's, well, you know, I can take it out a little bit. Sort of like peanut butter here in the U.S. Julie, do you like Marmite?
No, not really.
Ryman says it's great. Marmite is great. Emmett says byproduct of making beer. Smith says, I love Marmite. Ed Worley, bleh. Matthias is watching on his big screen TV, a 4K TV. Great sound isn't so good. I wonder why that is. Hope everybody else's sound is good. Putin would look great in a pink suit, a full body restraint suit. Julie, I like your shirt. What great comments. But back to Marmite.
Yes.
That was courtesy of Dougal. Oh, remember when we had Dougal on the show a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
And he is sending us some tidbits here and there. He's going to do some more work. He was a hoot. He was a lot of fun.
He was.
Dougal Henshaw, who did that 505 piece. He's written the book about the 505 class, soon to be out. And he said, Tom, another little gift for you, part one, so you can get the like it or hate it idea. I was working here in Washington, D.C., and had smuggled a jar of Marmite in at the bottom of my luggage. So I'm at an event in a posh country club in Leesom County outside of D.C. I went down for breakfast, taking my Marmite with me. My U.S. opposite number, a hard-bitten Texan, joined me, saw the Marmite, and gave me the classic Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Is that? So he tried a small scraping on a piece of toast, took one bite, grabbed his throat, and gasped in a very loud voice, Jesus H. Christ, you've got to be in special forces to eat that. The whole dining room must have heard it. Now, here's a video that he sent along, too. Drink the sour milk. Love it or hate it. Thank you, Dougal Henschel, for that. And then I'm going to end here on some cruise, since you're such a big cruiser, Julia. You haven't been on a cruise in a while.
I know. Nobody's letting me go.
Did you see that bit about the cruise ship that left, that came in here, dropped, they sent a note around to everybody on the ship saying, hey, we got COVID, so we're going to shorten the cruise. You're all going to have to get off here in San Francisco. Yeah. So they let a bunch of people with COVID off and staff, crew. And then the boat went out and sat in the bay for a couple of days, allegedly because of the storm. It's been very windy and stormy, but apparently they're not sure they can go anywhere else. But that's, I digress. Lots of cruise ship news. This cruise ship, Carnival Cruise Lines, reports record bookings. In a report out yesterday, I don't want you to think that I read cruise industry news regularly. It came up on my news feed for some reason. Record. But I'll tell you what, this cruise ship caught my eye when I was looking at that story. You see this? Mm-hmm. Virgin's Resilient Lady is the name of that ship. She has completed sea trials at 23 knots. Mm-hmm. Built in Genoa, the new resilient lady from Virgin Voyages, is inching closer to her debut this summer, having successfully completed her final sea trial and returning safely to Fincantieri's Sestri shipyard in Genoa, Italy. During the speed trial, she reached an impressive speed of 23 knots, which is 26.5 miles per hour, 42.6. The company said, maybe SailGP ought to take a lesson, a page out of their book there. Say it, report it in knots, and then put it parenthetically what the speed is in kilometers per hour and miles per hour. But back to this ship. It looks to me like the ugliest cruise ship I have ever seen. Somebody's beating that boat with an ugly stick. Tell me if I was going to put this in Corrector Crutonica. No, thank you. James Frederick Bland agree. I like the 900-passenger old-style ships or smaller. Clark Chapin, Virgin Voyages, do they require a medical certificate?
Clark.
Looks like a floating Vegas casino. Did the cruise ship also get Marmite resupplies while in San Francisco? Julia, that thing is ugly.
Yes. I'm all for the, I started out with Seabourn, which had 300 passengers and 300 staff.
Well, that's the luxury, right? The luxury is.
And that's the way to go.
The most luxurious cruise line. Well, I'm glad some of you agree. Let us know if you've ever been on one of these Virgin Voyagers or plan to anytime soon. Corrector Crutonic, I was going to use that in the K or K segment, but what I do like, again, is that they spelled out, use knots, and then tell us what to educate people.
Yep.
It's like when they tried to teach us the metric system here in the U.S. when we were in high school. They started telling us, how long's a meter? And you had to memorize a meter was 39.37 inches. Yeah. That's the wrong way to do it. You say a meter is this long. Mm-hmm. And of course you tell a guy what 6 inches is. You tell him that in centimeters and he knows, oh, okay. Or you say a thumb's a centimeter. Okay, I digress. So you can wave your finger at me if you want.
As if anybody's really interested.
My first passenger cruise was around the world on the P&O Arcadia. It was far better looking. When you're on around the world, wow.
Yeah.
I cruise with Hollandia. Yeah, I think Holland America, Royal Hollandia, they're great ships.
Yeah.
Or use kilometers per hour to get bigger numbers, just like SailGP. Yeah, right. Gee, their TV numbers are not great. I'm sad to say, but they're doing, I think, a great job. And I wish they would focus on the sailing community, on the yacht club community, which I like to see what they're doing. That is SailGP out here. Well, I got to get that chip out of there over my shoulder. It's awful, ugly. And I think if SailGP just recruited every sailor on the planet to come look at SailGP and and then got half of them, they'd be way ahead of trying to get punters, non-sailing people to come take an interest. That gets us to the finish line, Julia, your witness.
Yes. Take this opportunity to like, follow, and share because it does make a difference.
It does indeed, and we appreciate it very much. Also, comments are welcome. We've got hundreds of comments again today, as always. We appreciate them. Even in replay, we take comments. Just, again, if you're new here, no name calling, no personal attacks, no coarse language, no crutonicism. Contrary-minded opinions, we love. In fact, we get worried when we don't get some, right, Julia?
Right.
You're looking at the comments.
Yes, I'm reading the comments.
Whatever you said. The commentators on SailGP sound like punters. Yeah, Bill, that's a problem. We need to get Jody back, and we need to get Shirley back. We need to get real sailors. Nathan Outeridge was terrific. He's tied up now. Grew up using both standards, prefer metric. Yeah, I think we all do. I mean, having lived in Europe for 18 years and dealing with metric every day, I still deal with metric and, frankly, 24-hour clocks. I say to Julia, well, let's go to the yacht club at 18. What? 18? Is that 8? No, you know it, the 24-hour clock.
Yes.
That's 6 p.m. Let's go there at 18. And when you're dealing in multiple time zones as we do, it's a lot easier to deal with 24-hour clocks because it's 21:39 UTC, 22:39 on CET on the continent, 09:40 in Auckland. It's 14:40 here, and when you add and subtract, it's so much easier with a 24-hour clock. I don't know why the whole world doesn't standardize on that. And I don't know why the whole world doesn't support us on Patreon. A lot of you do. We appreciate very much. Patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. One time or monthly, or send us a check. Help keep us on the air. Help us keep our bills paid because we like to be able to say what we mean what we say without advertisers breathing down our necks. Julia, any final comments?
No, not really. I just wish the world would put itself back together.
You think that's going to happen anytime soon?
No, but there's no earthly reason not to try to keep at it.
Well, as my mother likes to say, you don't worry about things you can't fix. And right now, we can't fix Ukraine, I don't think, in Russia. You know, this is not the first time this guy Putin has done this either. And,
I know.
Or you think about the invasion of Iraq, which we did, as somebody commented on here.
Yeah, James, John Lambert's.
John Lambert's Fun Beer.
Yeah, which is a very good thing to read.
Very nearly Wednesday in Spain. John Emmett, thank you for your submissions. Thank you again for coming on and staying on, and all of you. We hope you have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you on Friday. In the meantime, sail fast,
Good morning.
Good morning. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.